The rain had not yet begun, but the air already carried the metallic scent of an approaching storm, a warning that something far bigger than weather was about to unfold. In the narrow lanes of Aarav, where the old temples leaned like tired guardians and the marketplace hummed with the chatter of early morning vendors, 18-year-old Aarav walked quietly with a notebook tucked beneath his arm, unaware that this day would split his life cleanly into before and after. He was known in the town as the boy who dreamed too loudly, always scribbling sketches of worlds unseen, characters unborn, stories that, according to everyone except him, had no place in a real man's future. But Aarav believed that every silent corner of Aarav whispered secrets, if one listened closely enough. Today, for the first time, the whisper would speak directly to him. As he passed the ancient banyan tree near the temple, his steps halted. He felt a strange heaviness in the atmosphere, as if the world had briefly inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. His eyes were drawn toward the base of the tree where something glimmered faintly beneath layers of dust and fallen leaves. Curious, he crouched down and brushed the debris aside, revealing a small bronze pendant inscribed with symbols he had never seen, sharp curves, interlocking patterns, and a tiny central eye that seemed impossibly lifelike, as though it watched him. The moment his fingertips grazed the pendant, a pulse of cold spread through his hand, not painful, but electric, awakening something inside him he didn't know existed. The sounds of the town faded, the honking rickshaws, the bargaining sellers, the chanting from the early puja, all dissolved into a deep, resonant hum that vibrated in the center of his chest, aligning with the silent beat of the mysterious pendant. Aarav staggered back, heart racing, but the pendant clung to his palm with a strange magnetism, refusing to fall even when he shook his hand. Before he could process what was happening, a voice, soft yet commanding, echoed in his mind, a whisper that felt ancient: "The guardian has awakened." Aarav stumbled again, breath sharp, eyes wide. The voice was not his imagination, it carried texture, weight, and an authority that chilled him. His mind scrambled for logic. Perhaps he was exhausted, or maybe someone nearby had spoken, but no one in the marketplace looked toward him. The world had resumed as if nothing had happened. But something had happened, something irreversible. The pendant's eye blinked, not metaphorically, not in the way illusions trick the mind, but truly, an eyelid of bronze sliding open and shut in a fraction of a second. Aarav gasped and nearly dropped the object, but again, it refused to leave his hand. He felt dizzy, overwhelmed, and yet a small part of him, deep, buried, and long ignored, felt excited, as though life had finally remembered him. He hid the pendant inside his pocket and hurried home, unaware that shadows had begun to follow him. At the other end of the marketplace, under the shade of a cloth stall, a man draped in a dark, hooded cloak observed him with unwavering focus. His face was half masked, his posture unnervingly still. The vendor asked if he wanted to buy something, but the man ignored him completely. His attention was locked onto Aarav, and when the boy disappeared into the morning crowd, the man whispered a single word under his breath: "Found." Meanwhile, Aarav reached his family's small home at the edge of Aarav's lake. The water stretched out calm and reflective, but even the lake seemed different today, as if it too sensed the disruption in the ordinary. Inside the house, the aroma of cardamom chai filled the air, and his mother greeted him with her usual smile, unaware that her son's heart raced with fear and wonder. Aarav rushed to his room, shut the door, and pulled out the pendant, searching it carefully. The strange eye no longer moved, but the hum he felt earlier had left a tingling echo in his fingers. He flipped open his notebook and tried sketching the symbol from memory, but as the pencil touched paper, the pendant began to glow faintly, casting long shadows across the room. The light spiraled upward, forming faint shapes, symbols he didn't recognize but somehow understood. They spoke not in words but in impressions, showing him glimpses of battles fought in forgotten ages, lands swallowed by darkness, and a figure standing alone against a monstrous force, holding a pendant identical to his. The vision snapped and left him gasping. Sweat gathered on his palms, yet his pulse throbbed with adrenaline. He didn't know what the pendant wanted from him, but one thing had become painfully clear: this was no ordinary trinket lost beneath a tree. It was a call, and it had chosen him. Evening approached, and with it came the true storm. Clouds rolled in like bruises across the sky, thunder cracking so loudly it rattled the window frames. Aarav sat by the window clutching the pendant, staring at the growing darkness outside. His mind was a battlefield, fear at war with curiosity, anxiety tangled with the strange certainty that his life had just stepped onto a path it could never leave. Suddenly, a loud knock slammed against the front door. His mother called for him to check, but a chill raced down his spine. The pendant pulsed violently, its bronze surface shifting from dull brown to a deep, warning crimson. Aarav stood slowly, heart thundering in sync with the storm outside, and walked toward the door, every instinct screaming danger. As he placed his hand on the handle, the pendant's whisper returned, clearer now, urgent, he has come. Aarav swallowed, opened the door, and gasped as lightning illuminated the cloaked stranger standing in the rain, eyes fixed directly on him. The man lowered his hood, revealing a scar that ran across his left eye and a smirk that carried centuries of menace. "You have something that belongs to us," he said. The storm roared behind him, the pendant burned hot against Aarav's chest, and in that moment he understood. Whatever destiny had awakened today, he was no longer safe, no longer ordinary, no longer just a boy in a quiet town. The first chapter of his new life had begun, and someone, somewhere, was willing to tear the world apart to stop it. And to everyone watching this story unfold, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter of this journey. Your support keeps these adventures alive. The storm raged harder as Aarav stared at the cloaked stranger on his doorstep, lightning slicing across the sky like furious claws, illuminating the man's scarred face and cold, predatory eyes. The pendant throbbed wildly against Aarav's chest, each pulse sending a shock of heat through his body, urging him to step back, to run, to hide, yet his feet stayed rooted as though some invisible force bound him to that moment. The man stepped forward, rainwater dripping from his cloak like melted shadows. "Hand it over," he growled, voice low and gravelly, carrying a darkness that seemed to stretch far beyond the storm. Aarav's breath hitched. Instinctively, he raised a trembling hand to shield the pendant beneath his shirt. "I don't know what you're talking about," he managed, though even he could hear the fear cracking his voice. The man smirked, a cruel curve of his lips that held no humor. "You were chosen, boy. But you were not meant to find it. And now, you've awakened something you cannot control." Aarav tried to call for his mother, but the moment he opened his mouth, the pendant flared to life, releasing a brief flash of golden light that engulfed both him and the stranger. The man staggered back, momentarily blinded, but his shock quickly turned into a snarl. "So it has bonded with you," he hissed. "Unfortunate." Without another word, he lunged forward with impossible speed, as though the storm itself had propelled him. Aarav stumbled back inside, slamming the door, yet the impact of the stranger's strike shattered the wood-like brittle glass, sending splinters flying across the room. His mother screamed from the kitchen, dropping a clay cup that shattered at her feet. "Aarav, what is happening?" Before he could answer, the stranger stepped into the room, lightning illuminating him from behind like a demon emerging from the void. Aarav's mother grabbed a rolling pin, her hands trembling, but the man barely glanced her way. "I am not here for you," he growled. "The boy comes with me." Aarav felt terror clawing at his throat, yet the pendant pulsed again, and this time the heat spread through his entire body, filling his limbs with a strange strength. His vision sharpened, his heartbeat steadied. The storm outside roared in unison with the pounding inside his chest. The stranger extended a gloved hand toward him. "You cannot fight fate, boy." But Aarav clenched his teeth, stepped in front of his mother, and shouted, "Stay away from us." The pendant erupted, this time not with light, but with a shockwave that blasted outward in a circular burst, throwing the stranger across the room and slamming him into the far wall. The windows rattled violently, some cracked. Aarav gasped, staring at his own trembling hands in disbelief. His mother whispered his name, half in awe, half in fear, unsure whether the son she knew still stood before her. The stranger rose slowly, wiping blood from his lip, eyes burning with rage. "So the power answers you," he spat. "Then we do this the hard way." He drew a dark, jagged blade from inside his cloak, its surface absorbing the light around it. "This ends now." Aarav grabbed his mother's hand and pulled her behind him, ready for another strike he wasn't sure he could survive. But before the stranger could attack, the storm outside intensified, the ground trembled, the air vibrated, and suddenly a blinding column of blue light descended from the sky just outside the doorway. A figure stepped out of it, tall and cloaked in shimmering silver armor etched with ancient symbols that glowed faintly like moonlight. The stranger with the scar froze, blade half raised. "No," he whispered, "not her." The armored figure lifted her visor, revealing piercing eyes, calm, sharp, and impossibly old. "Enough, Kale," she said, voice steady as thunder. "You will not take the guardian." Aarav blinked in confusion. "Guardian? Him?" The stranger, Kale, tightened his grip on the blade. "You cannot protect him forever, Seraphine. The Order will claim what is ours. Seraphine stepped forward, each movement radiating power. He is no longer yours to claim. The pendant has chosen, and its awakening means the shadow cycle has begun. Aarav's heart pounded. Shadow cycle, guardian, chosen. He felt as if he had been thrust into a story written long before he was born. Kale snarled and lunged at Seraphine, but she raised her hand, creating a shimmering barrier that sent him crashing backward again. The storm outside responded to their clash, lightning arcing in spirals, thunder shaking the earth. Seraphine turned to Aarav. We must leave, now, before more of their hunters arrive. Aarav stepped back, overwhelmed. His mother shook her head, clutching his arm. No, he is just a boy. Tell her, Aarav, tell her you're not going anywhere. But Seraphine's gaze softened as she looked at his mother. I wish that were true. But your son carries a power that can either save this world or doom it. If he stays, your home will be destroyed. They will not stop. As if to punctuate her warning, another crack of thunder shook the walls, and distant silhouettes moved through the storm, more cloaked figures, approaching fast. Aarav's mother's eyes filled with tears. She placed a trembling hand on her son's cheek. Go, if it keeps you alive, go. Aarav's chest tightened, but before he could speak, Seraphine extended her hand toward him. You can choose fear, she said, or you can choose your destiny. The pendant glowed warm against his heart, as if urging him forward. Aarav took a shaky breath, looked at his mother one last time, then reached out and grabbed Seraphine's hand. The moment he touched her, the blue light flared around them, enveloping their bodies, and in a flash of blinding brilliance, they vanished, leaving behind only swirling wind, a shattered doorway, and a mother praying her son would return. As their forms dissolved into the light, Seraphine's voice echoed beside him, steady and resolute, your training begins now, guardian. The fate of more than you know depends on you. And to everyone watching this story unfold, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter of this epic journey. Your support keeps this adventure alive and growing.